Okay guys, we have finished and we will show you. So this is going to be the filter plenum or box coned out to a 12-inch. Like I said, we had to go with the 12-inch to 10-inch adapter, so it goes 10-inch out to the 12 because we have a 12-inch exhaust tube with an exhaust fan coming. And basically we welded the legs on, and what we have is the bottom of the square, the corner here is sitting at 2 feet and then going up to about 4 feet in height, which we decided that because that puts us roughly, I measured over here, it puts us roughly about here on the car, which is nice because then your suction isn't like down in the corner having to pull all the stuff over to the corner, because we're going to build it in the center of the flap to the carport, right? Because you have those big roll down flaps. We're going to cut a hole out and basically tape that to the back of this box and then run our tube out and make sure everything's airtight. We're gonna have a tarp on the bottom that folds up that we're gonna park the car on. You gotta put a little effort into this, but we measured so that way this thing's like centered in height, and then when we center it this way, it'll pull all the overspray down both sides. It'll suck it from off the top, because then your fans will be, typically your suction filter would be at the back of the car, because I guess with me, I like to work from the front back, and you would have that centered back there sucking everything off of the car. And then you would have we're gonna have two fans up top here like this that are gonna be hanging, and they're gonna be pushing air towards where it's being sucked out as well. So it's going to help all the overspray blow away from and off of this car as we paint going this way, and it's going to suck it all out the back through this filter. And I'm going to tell you why it looks so messy is the wire was bowing out because we haven't welded it to the bracket yet, and it's pushing it out. So I taped here. There's no seam, I just taped there to hold it in place. And there was a seam here because we didn't buy the rollout stuff to be able to cut perfectly what we needed, so we had to splice a piece in there. And then the reason it's taped all the way around is that's to cover all the additional air gaps. That way there's no air gaps. Everything will be filtered through this pad, which is basically a swamp cooler pad. But if you look at that, it's pretty tight knitted and it's thick, guys. It's like, you know, a good inch thick. I mean, it's gonna catch, trust me, a lot of the overspray paint. What gets out is probably gonna be equivalent to a rattle can if someone was just painting their lawn chair in the yard or something. That's really all you need. I'm going a little more advanced than when I was a kid, because when I was a kid, believe it or not, you may or may not, and if you're a professional painter, you can laugh all you want, but my stepdad, one of many, he was a big a-hole per se, and he would build a tarp paint booth with PVC frame glued together over a car, blue tarps, duct tape everything off, cut 2 vent holes, hook a shop vac to the other side, which don't ask me why, and turn it on. And he would paint in that. And don't know how, don't know anything, but it would come out amazing. Watched him do it. Crazy ass individual. I say a-hole because he was one of those types that was an alcoholic, couldn't control it, and was very violent man. But he did show me some tricky things like that. And all I'm doing is showing you guys an upgraded version of what he did, because I have a little bit of extra money to spend. I really don't, but I do, because I need to get this rolling. Because when I give someone my word that I'll paint their car, I stick to my word. And the blow-up booth seems logical until you have goat heads, like I said, and other obstacles to hurdle, and you're in a hurry. So we built this Saturday. The exhaust fan for this will be here, and then by this next Wednesday we'll be receiving the carport and putting that up and putting it over a blue tarp to pull the car up on, and we'll be testing the booth and figuring out a way to make this and just the back flap removable and be able to take the fans like that down, so when we're not spraying in it, it can just be a regular carport as well. And then that way we can work under it, because our shop's full and we can't work in the shop. So as you see, I'll give you guys a view. There's my truck. I work out on it in the heat when it's 106 sometimes to 110 degrees, baking the shit out of you. So I have my, over there behind the car, the little blue thing, that's my canopy pop-up that I use to keep the sun off me when I'm working on my truck, and stuff like that. And I also take my canopy and I turn it into a small paint booth with just regular, you know, that thin painter's plastic. You just rip it out, whip it out, and that stuff, when you pull it apart, becomes staticky, so it actually draws overspray towards it a little bit. Not perfect, but with a fan blowing it towards it too, it helps. And I just take 3 sides of that and block it off, and then I have a fan like this hanging from one side upside down, and I angle it towards my project, and you know, when I'm spraying small parts. So that's another cheat way, like if you want to have a big booth with this set up for the whole part of the car, but say like on my wife's car, we'll probably paint the doors separate and certain things. Even with the El Camino, we're going to be painting doors separate. I'll have this set up too as a another, well, maybe not, maybe we'll spray the car, and then when we get it rolled out, we'll spray the parts. But we'll figure that out when it comes. But that's also another option, is you could build that onto the back of this or the front of it as an addition part of it for smaller parts. You could build this out. You guys don't have to go spend tons of money. You know, I'm gonna spend, because I had a lot of this stuff, like I've been saying, I'm probably gonna spend about $900 building the full-size booth. And if I didn't have the little canopy, those are about 120, so that's about $1,000. And a little creativity, and there you go. You know, and then you just figure out what fan speed you need, so it's not pushing it too hard towards here, because you don't want this to be fighting that, bouncing off it, or plugging up the filter too quick. And you can just turn on your suction and watch, like test it, spray something in front of it, see how hard it's pulling the paint, and then adjust your fans pushing the air across the car according to this, because those are 3-speed fans. You can turn them on 1, 2, or 3, and then it'll help this a little bit as well. And we're going to attempt this with a 12 by 20 carport with an adjustable roof from 8 to 12 feet, so we can adjust it to 10 or 12 foot Probably going to put it all the way to 12 foot so that way there's more airspace for the overspray to cloud up higher and then give this time to suck it out or towards it. And then since we're doing the car's going to be black on top, silver on bottom with a pearl accent in the silver. We will be spraying it in 2 phases, so that will help with the overspray cloud for the one project that we're getting ready to do, and give us time to switch this filter pad back out and retape it in between, because you might have to do that. It's a little extra work here or there, but you know, a blow up booth that has, I found, charcoal liners, filters that you can switch out for $1,200, and that's a good buy. But then you gotta factor in, it's a blow up booth. You have to keep those pumps running the whole time that project's drying, because you don't want to push that project out too early and like get bugs in it. And so with this way, you're using a carport. It's a permanent metal frame. There's nothing to it. It's not going to fall down on your project. It's not going nowhere if you build it right and you anchor it. And then if you want to, once you vacate all the overspray through the filter system and it's not clouded in the booth, you can turn off your fans or your suction or both, whatever, or one or the other. Mainly you could turn off your filter, and then you could leave the fans running, and you can leave it in the heat at a certain point. If you spray early enough when it's cooler, gives time for the paint to start to dry slowly with the heat rising, and then when it gets hotter in the day, like 80-90 degrees, it'll bake inside that tent. And you don't have to worry about, though, like having, you know, all this stuff running the whole time. You can turn it off at a certain point, and then you're not running extra power because you're not worried about your tent coming down on it. That's the other thing. You know, there's no difference. We're just developing a different airflow system inside a tinted spray booth to accommodate what we're doing and be safe about it, and not have paint just blowing all over the neighborhood, all over people's houses, cars. You know, we're going to catch the bulk of what comes through, and we're going to angle the other side at like something to catch anything else coming through on the other end, like into a garbage can or something like that. There's always other ways to do this. You could even not even have this, and you could use like they have on grow rooms, because we live in California, but where people grow stuff anyways, and they build these big round charcoal canister filters that you can run one of these tube exhaust fans into, and you can just put it in your room and suck everything into that canister outside the room. I mean, you don't have to go all crazy, but even those are spendy. They're like $200, $300, $400 for a decent sized charcoal canister. And when they're done, they're done. You know, you're gonna have to buy more charcoal to put in there or whatever. This is just my way because it's what I had. We had to budget build this instead of buying the blow up thing. I was gonna attempt to get rid of the goat heads, but I decided with the goat heads and all the other things I'm fighting, I'm just gonna do what I know how to do, guys. And we'll show you how it works when we get it going. Alright, peace, prosperity, all that good stuff. Hope we're helping people with ideas or something at the very least that helps them continue on with their projects and not have to spend forever getting something in the mail, or just maybe you don't want to spend a bunch of money to paint cars, you know, and what's good enough is good enough. To cut and buff in the end with wax is good enough, as long as you don't have any flaws in your blocking when you're sanding your high build. You know, it'll go on like glass. Then you take that orange peel off in the end anyway, and you're sitting there waxing it. So, you know what I mean? You better put what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray every project. We're going to probably overdo, but we're going to be putting like 5 to 6 coats of clear. We're going to spray 3, and then at 3 we're going to let it harden, and then we're going to wet sand and get out the orange peel with a 400 grit, and then maybe all the way down to like a and I mean very lightly, guys. You don't gotta push hard when you're trying to cut clear coat to take out the orange peel. You just let the sandpaper do its job, guys. You're not a barbarian with a car. It's like a sexy woman. You want to run your hands over her really nice. And this is why we don't make our videos for children. If you let your kids watch them, I've already marked it not for kids. So that's on you. But just as an example, you're going to be caressing her firm, but not super hard, guys. This is a very tedious type of work. You gotta understand, this is why when you work classics and you do body work and paint jobs, it's expensive to get a paint job on a classic done if you're a collector. You know, you got guys out there might do repairs and do a paint job on a car like this for 4 to 10 grand. It's not cheap. So if you're out there DIYing it, you can cut costs, because it's still not going to be cheap for you even on paint, because a lot of that's cost in paint, Bondo, primers, sandpapers that you got to throw out, filter pads when you build things like this. You know, you have a lot of overhead. Then you got to factor in your power bill a little bit, you know, even if you work at home. Factor in all your overheads. Don't just go into something like this and not factor when you build furniture. Rule of thumb, guys, is you total your materials and your labor, and then you charge triple what the cost was for you to build it in labor hours and materials, based off of what you want in labor, and you charge triple that to cover overhead and to cover profits. And that's rule of thumb. Now with things like painting a car, you could use a similar system, but I would rather say it like this. I would use a system like I did in construction work, where you total labor and cost of materials, and you charge an additional 16 to 20 or 25% of the total bid for your overhead and your profits. Because when you're doing a $10,000 job, you know, 10% of 10 grand is $1,000. So you're talking about $1,600 for overhead and profits, and that's a side of your labor that you're already making for your bills. That way you can at least put $600 or $1,000 towards your overhead, and then 600 towards building your business up more and more as you go. Whether you save that 600 every time and you're waiting for a big cost to spend it on, or you're just using it as you go, because it will increase your business and make you climb and not crash like a lot of businesses you see do. And I'm only giving this business advice because honestly, guys, I've been a handyman for a very long time. On my own, I've survived and I've made a decent living, not a killing, and I scrape by, but I do. With me and my wife both working, we make it by, we have what we want, and we always keep climbing. We never go down. We always gain things and gain ground. And that is the goal in life, people, number one. I'm not trying to be no one's counselor, but you see a lot of people that talk about what they're doing and how to be successful at actually the technique of spraying cars or building booths or whatever, but they don't tell you how to hold your business afloat and how to make it climb. Okay, there is a business side to everything you do in life to make money on your own. And that is the motto, guys. That is A, the furniture builder's motto. B, the handyman construction motto that I gave you. And the reason I know about the furniture building side is I used to build furniture and custom closets when I was in high school for a hustle, because it was big back then. A lot of people don't know that because I didn't really tell people how I got my money a lot. I just be gone from home, do my thing, party, and be out there doing whatever for work to get money. I grew up poor and I had to go get it, you know. Never really told anybody I did that, honestly. And then I also learned it from a gentleman that I met that was a clock builder, and he said he used the same calculations as a furniture builder to sell clocks. So, that's the rule of thumb, guys, is that's how you get it done. That's how you make your business go up and never crash and burn. You can only climb when you charge enough to pay your bills and get overhead and profit to be able to make that business stay afloat while it's running, and B, always climb or have money in emergencies when someone refuses to pay you. That extra $600 you've been saving may pay one of your employees or pay your bills. You may run into lawsuits. You may run into shitty clients who just want to refuse to pay, because that's just life. So always protect what you have going, and always thumbs down to the haters, because we don't support haters. I don't care if it gets people views or not. Don't come here. We only support positive people and people trying to do things to gain in life. Life's hard enough, guys. We got kids to raise. Get to doing it. Peace.